For centuries, scholars have been intrigued by a mysterious document known as the Q source. This document, if it ever actually existed, has long since vanished. Q, which stands for the German word Quelle, meaning source, is a hypothetical collection of Jesus' sayings. It is not a full-fledged gospel like Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. Instead, it is thought to have been a collection of Jesus' teachings and pronouncements. The intriguing aspect of Q is that it is not a physical document we possess. Instead, its existence is proposed based on the similarities between the Gospels of Matthew and Luke. These two Gospels share a significant amount of material, both in terms of wording and sequence, that is not found in the Gospel of Mark. This has led scholars to believe that Matthew and Luke drew upon a common source independent of Mark for these shared passages. The search for Q is not just an academic exercise, it is an attempt to get closer to the historical Jesus and to understand the earliest layers of the Christian tradition. The idea of a lost gospel predates the modern era. The Q hypothesis emerged in the 19th century. German scholars played a pivotal role. Friedrich Schleiermacher suggested a shared source for Matthew and Luke. He proposed they used an earlier collection of Jesus' sayings. Johannes Weiss coined the term Q. Weiss argued Q was a distinct strand of early Christian tradition. B.H. Streeter developed the two-source hypothesis. Streeter posited Matthew and Luke used Mark and Q. The Q hypothesis remains influential in New Testament scholarship. The Q hypothesis arose in response to a long-standing puzzle in biblical studies known as the synoptic problem. This problem centers on the literary relationship between the first three Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. These Gospels, known as the Synoptic Gospels because they can be seen together synoptic, share a remarkable amount of material. They often recount the same stories and teachings of Jesus, frequently in the same order and using almost identical wording. This overlap raises the question of literary dependence. Did one Gospel author copy from another? If so, which Gospel came first and which ones relied on it as a source? The two-source hypothesis suggests that both Matthew and Luke used two main sources in composing their Gospels, Mark and Q. According to this theory, Mark was the earliest of the three synoptic Gospels. Matthew and Luke, writing independently of each other, both used Mark as a source, incorporating much of its material into their own accounts. However, Matthew and Luke also share a significant amount of material that's not found in Mark. This is where Q comes in. Although no physical copy of Q has ever been found, scholars have been able to reconstruct a possible outline of its contents based on the material shared by Matthew and Luke. This reconstruction suggests that Q was primarily a collection of Jesus' sayings, with a particular emphasis on his teachings about the kingdom of God, discipleship, and ethical behavior. The sayings attributed to Jesus in Q are often characterized by their brevity, their poetic imagery, and their paradoxical nature. They often take the form of short, memorable pronouncements such as the Beatitudes, the Lord's Prayer, and the Golden Rule. The content of Q, as reconstructed by scholars, provides a glimpse into the heart of Jesus' message. It emphasizes the importance of seeking God's kingdom above all else, of living a life of love and compassion, and of being prepared for the coming judgment. While Q is primarily a collection of sayings, it also includes a few narrative elements such as the story of John the Baptist's preaching and the temptation of Jesus in the wilderness. The focus of Q, however, remains firmly on the words and teachings of Jesus, highlighting his role as a prophet and wisdom teacher. Despite its widespread acceptance, the Q hypothesis is not without its critics and challenges. Some scholars argue that the similarities between Matthew and Luke can be explained without resorting to a hypothetical source like Q. They propose alternative theories, such as the possibility that Luke used Matthew as a source, or that both Matthew and Luke drew on a shared oral tradition. One of the main arguments against Q is the lack of any direct evidence for its existence. No ancient writer mentions a document with this name or with a similar collection of Jesus' sayings. Furthermore, the proposed contents of Q vary considerably depending on which scholar's reconstruction one follows, raising questions about the objectivity of the hypothesis. Despite these challenges, the Q hypothesis continues to be the dominant explanation for the relationship between the synoptic Gospels. The debate over Q highlights the complexities of biblical scholarship and the tentative nature of our knowledge about the origins of Christianity. The Q hypothesis has had a profound impact on the quest for the historical Jesus. By isolating the material that Matthew and Luke share independently of Mark, scholars believe they are getting closer to the earliest layers of the Jesus tradition. Q, if it existed, would represent a very early collection of Jesus' sayings, perhaps dating back to the 40s or 50s CE, just a few decades after his death. The sayings attributed to Jesus in Q paint a vivid portrait of a charismatic teacher and prophet who challenged the religious and social norms of his day. By studying Q, scholars hope to gain a clearer understanding of Jesus' message and mission, free from the later theological interpretations and embellishments that may have crept into the canonical Gospels. The quest for the historical Jesus is a complex and often contentious endeavor, but Q provides a valuable window into the world of early Christianity and the life and teachings of its founder. By studying Q alongside the canonical Gospels and other early Christian writings, scholars continue to piece together a more nuanced and historically grounded understanding of Jesus of Nazareth. The hypothetical Q source sheds light on Jesus' teachings and early Christian beliefs. Q's sayings were crucial for guidance and inspiration. They reveal early Christians' concerns and priorities, emphasis on the kingdom of God and ethical behavior. Q's existence suggests multiple strands of early Christianity. Studying Q helps understand early Christian dynamics. The influence of Q extends far beyond the realm of biblical scholarship. The teachings attributed to Jesus in Q have resonated with Christians throughout history, shaping their understanding of discipleship, social justice, and the nature of God. The themes of poverty, humility, and love for one's enemies, so prominent in Q, have inspired countless acts of charity, service, and social reform. The Sermon on the Mount, which is found in both Matthew and Luke, and is believed to be based in part on Q, has been particularly influential in Christian thought and practice. The Beatitudes, the Lord's Prayer, and the Golden Rule, all found in this sermon, have become cornerstones of Christian ethics and spirituality. The teachings found in Q have also been a source of challenge and controversy throughout church history. The radical call to forsake family and possessions, the warnings about judgment and the coming kingdom, and the emphasis on social justice have often been difficult to reconcile with the established order. The study of Q, therefore, is not just an academic exercise, but an invitation to engage with the radical and transformative message of Jesus. The Q source remains an enigma, a tantalizing mystery that continues to fascinate and challenge biblical scholars. Despite decades of research and debate, its existence remains hypothetical, its precise contents uncertain. Yet even in its shadowy form, Q has had a profound impact on our understanding of the historical Jesus, the formation of the New Testament, and the development of Christian thought. The quest for Q is a testament to the enduring power of the past to captivate our imaginations and to shape our understanding of the present. Whether Q is ever found or not, its legacy will continue to shape biblical scholarship and Christian thought for generations to come. The search for Q is ultimately a search for meaning, a quest to understand the origins of our faith and the enduring relevance of Jesus' message. It is a journey that takes us to the heart of the Christian story and challenges us to live out its transformative message in our own time and place.